Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Gray.
And I'm Charlene Israel. The Federal Reserve gave its strongest sign in years that the economy is getting back on track, announcing Wednesday that it's scaling back the stimulus that's been bolstering the economy. The market responded with enthusiasm to the encouraging news. A vote of confidence by the Federal Reserve heard loud and clear on Wall Street. The Dow soared high above the 16,000 mark after gaining nearly 300 points, fueled by Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke's big announcement Wednesday.
Starting in January, we will be purchasing $75 billion of securities a month, reducing purchases of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities by $5 billion each.
In other words, the Fed is going to start scaling back its efforts to stimulate economic growth. Investors overwhelmingly approve of the Fed's latest action, largely because it comes with assurances that interest rates will be kept low in order to keep the economy moving.
It certainly is a vote of confidence that the Fed has for the economic recovery.
Rates wouldn't be raised again until the jobless rate falls below 6.5%. It was at 7% in November. Bernanke said the Fed expects to continue reducing its bond buying program in measured steps in the new year. But it will all depend on how the economy performs in coming months.
The economy is continuing to make progress, but that it also has much farther to travel before conditions can be judged normal.
The Fed's bond buying program is designed to keep long-term interest rates low and encourage more borrowing and spending. But some analysts are skeptical it will work in the end. CBN News spoke with Bill Frezza from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. He says the Fed has only created an illusion of prosperity.
They've inflated asset prices and home mortgages thanks to their bond buying programs, and hoping that the economy fills in from behind. What we're seeing instead is the entire Western world has become moribund with respect to growth, and this is what happens when you interfere in the economy at this level.
If the Fed does continue at the pace it's set, the bond buying program would be complete towards the end of 2014.
And joining us now with more is Kyriakos Zouras. He's a former advisor to President George W. Bush and an expert in turning around failing businesses. Kyriakos, are you surprised at this Fed's move?
No, I'm not. It's actually about time that they did something. I think it was a good move. The timing was just right going into the holidays and going into the new year. And it's not really a significant move, but I think it was a move that gave a little bit of confidence to the markets. But overall, I don't think it's going to have much impact, to be honest with you.
What does this tapering off of monthly bond buys mean for the economy going forward, you think?
I think it's going to have little or no impact because, you figure we're spending 80 and then we're cutting it to 10, but the interest rates are going to remain at rock bottom, it's zero basically. So it's not going to affect that. I think it was just more of a it was just a signal that things are getting better, but they're basing it on the unemployment rate, getting under 6.5 if they're going to reduce it again. But I want to remind everybody that the actual unemployment rate is 13.7% when we take the U6 measure. We still have 50% of the country on government assistance. So this was a good, I would like to say, like PR or window dressing move. I think it gave some confidence to the market, but overall effect's going to be little or nothing, I think.
People at home want to know, how will the decision affect your average American?
I don't think the average American is going to feel it. I think I think it's not going to trickle down to the grassroots. I think it's going to have little or no effect. I really do.
As we head into 2014, what do you see ahead for the economy?
More of the same. I think we have to be cautious of the unemployment numbers that come out because they're always manipulated, and after they release them, they always adjust them, and they seem to be higher than they were when they came out. And again, we have millions and millions of people that are unemployed, and almost half of the country is on assistance, and the jobs that are being created right now are part-time seasonal work, so we have to be cautious about that. And in the previous segment, you had an analyst that said that the economy is artificially stimulated. It's true. You can't, it's being supported right now by all this money, and when you do that, things are not as they appear. So you have to be cautious that there could be a downfall ahead.
What should the Fed be doing to help improve the economy and prevent that downfall?
Well, it's about getting people back to work. And, we've talked about this many, many times for years on this show and others. The Obama administration needs to do things to stimulate job growth here in the United States by helping small businesses able to hire. Obamacare is the biggest threat to small business, which employs 7 out of 10 people, and that's what's keeping people from hiring right now. It's going to keep people unemployed. Taxes are going up. The household income, average income, is down by $4,000 or $5,000 per year per American. The cost of Obamacare is going through the roof. It's not good. It's just I think we're headed to the wrong place right now.
All right, Kyriakos Zouras, always good to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Apparently, Congress is getting back on track as well. Last night, the Senate passed the budget agreement, first proposed by Republican Paul Ryan and Democrat Patty Murray. It eliminates $65 billion in domestic spending cuts, but is supposed to reduce the deficit in the long term. It now goes to President Obama for his signature.
The president's advisory panel says the NSA needs to be reined in, but there is no guarantee he will adopt their recommendations. President Obama handpicked a team to review the NSA surveillance programs following the infamous Edward Snowden leaks. That panel has now issued a 300-page report with at least 46 recommendations of sweeping changes. And the president says he is now studying it, but he's already rejected the recommendation that a civilian should run the NSA instead of someone from the military.
The message to the NSA is now coming from every branch of government, from every corner of our nation. NSA, you've gone too far.
The panel also wants to limit the bulk collection of Americans' phone records. It said such information was, quote, not essential to preventing attacks.
Americans say big government is a big threat to the U.S. in the future. A Gallup poll finds 72% of Americans say big government is a greater threat than big business or big labor. That's a record high in nearly 50 years. The prior high for big government was 65% in 1999 and 2000. There's been a steady increase in concern about big government since 2009. According to Gallup, government policies such as Obamacare, coupled with the NSA spying scandal, may be factors.
Half of the terror suspects at Guantanamo Bay could be closer to heading home. A bipartisan congressional deal gives the president a victory in his fight to close the prison. The deal would lift the most rigid restrictions on detainee transfers overseas, and it's part of a compromise defense bill that could pass the Senate this week.
Church attendance increases during this holiday season, but the true meaning of Christmas is being lost in America. A new survey by the Pew Research Center finds only 50% of Americans consider Christmas a religious holiday. Nearly 75% say they believe Jesus was born to a virgin, and 1/3 consider Christmas a cultural celebration. 54% of those surveyed say they will attend a Christmas service this year, while 86% say they will gather with extended family or friends and will buy gifts for them.
The Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem is one of the most revered sites in all of Christianity and the destination for Christian pilgrims from all over the world. Now the church is getting a much-needed facelift after 600 years. Here's Chris Mitchell from Bethlehem.
The first stage of the restoration began to repair water damage to the rooftop and windows.
The water also have a bad effect on the plastering surfaces, on the mosaics, on the floors, on the frescoes. It could damage any historical element inside the church.
The Church of the Nativity here in Bethlehem is one of Christianity's most visited sites. It attracted more than 2 million visitors last year, but the building, with remnants as old as 1,500 years, has been neglected for decades. Helena, the mother of Constantine, built the first church in the 4th century over a cave where some say the Virgin Mary gave birth. Today, pilgrims visit the basilica built later by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. The construction doesn't include the area where most Christians visit, the crypt where many believe Jesus was born. Many pilgrims don't seem to mind the restoration work.
We, of course, cannot see very much because of the scaffolding, but it seems to the right thing to do. We understand that they're restoring the mosaics and look forward to coming back one day with the full visibility.
I'm very grateful and happy that they are renovating it. Otherwise it will fall, and it will be safer for people and also to worship. And it is a nice step that they agree to renovate it because it's so many years have been waiting for this renovation.
One by one, experts will repair the hundreds of wooden beams in the roof. The project coordinators say they'll try to preserve as many original pieces as possible.
We'll save as many parts as we can, even those in bad condition. We'll only replace the pieces that are no longer functional and no longer help hold the roof. There will be as few as possible, and they'll be made of compatible wood, of aged wood, of the same type and quality.
European countries, the Palestinian Authority, and other organizations are funding the project. The first phase of the renovation work is expected to be completed by September 2014. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Bethlehem.
A measure that would help protect persecuted Christians is one step closer to becoming a law. A bill sponsored by Representative Frank Wolf calls for the creation of a State Department envoy to focus on religious minorities in the Middle East and Asia. It's already passed the House and is now headed for a vote in the Senate. On the House floor last week, Wolf lamented the plight of Christians in the Middle East and called on the U.S. to stand with them. The Virginia Republican recently announced he won't be seeking re-election next year. He has been a strong advocate for religious freedom.
Christians and Muslims in India are working together to demand equal constitutional rights. But Indian police recently attacked peaceful protesters with water cannons and canes. The protest was organized by churches and Muslim groups. They want legal rights for Christian Muslim Dalits. Those are people of a lower caste in India. They used to be called untouchables. Dalits, who are Hindus, Buddhists, and Sikhs, have certain rights that Muslim and Christian Dalits do not. Religion News Service reports that about 70% of the Christians in India are Dalits.
Coming up, meet the secular news anchor who takes her faith to the workplace and lets her light shine through her work. A government panel is releasing new guidelines on treating high blood pressure in older patients. The guidelines say patients over 60 don't need treatment unless their pressure exceeds 150/90. However, those under 60 should receive treatment if their pressure is higher than 140/90. The panel created the guidelines after reviewing numerous studies on hypertension. It recommends treating high blood pressure by age groups. It also divides groups into race, whether or not they have diabetes, and if they have chronic kidney failure.
The star of the hit A&E reality show Duck Dynasty has been suspended after calling homosexuality a sin. 67-year-old Phil Robertson came under fire from gay activists after airing his views in GQ magazine. Asked for his definition of sin, Robertson said, quote, "Start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there." Executives at A&E say they were disappointed at Robertson's remarks and placed him on indefinite leave from the show. In a follow-up statement, Robertson said, quote, "I would never treat anyone with disrespect just because they are different from me. We are all created by the Almighty, and like him, I love all of humanity." Most people distrust the secular media, but some Christians actually feel called to make a difference right there in that field.
That's right. And recently, I sat down with ABC News' Paula Faris. She shared openly about the challenges of working in secular news and the grace to overcome them.
For the past 2 years, Paula Faris has been a fresh, familiar face on ABC News. But the news correspondent who hails from Jackson, Michigan, never planned to go into the television biz.
I didn't grow up thinking, I want to be a reporter, I want to be an anchor. In fact, I remember my high school drama teacher was the one that encouraged me to go to college for broadcasting, because at that time I was like, I don't know what I want to do.
CBN News met up with Faris during a recent visit to Virginia Beach, Virginia, where she was the keynote speaker for the Christian Business Chamber of Hampton Roads. She shared how she graduated from Cedarville University with a degree in broadcasting with an emphasis in television production. Faris eventually moved to New York, where she landed her dream job as an anchor and reporter with ABC News.
A contact approached me from New York, one that I had interviewed with before. So I went on this interview and I spoke with all the execs at ABC News, and I felt peaceful, like I knew this was from God.
But she says the job does have its challenges, like when she had to anchor that network's overnight show and had to appear on Good Morning America early the next morning. As a Christian, she says there are other tests too.
Some of the decisions that are made too, I feel some of the choices that are made, in terms of editorially, I'm not going to do anything that compromises me. or my beliefs, and I'll stand up for that. It's also a challenge because people expect I'm a Christian, that I'm going to do all these faith-based stories. But at the same time, I feel like I'm there to influence and to pitch stories.
Nowadays, most journalists have a Twitter page where they post about the latest stories they're working on. On Faris's Twitter account, she boldly proclaims her love for her family, sports, and even her church.
Faris, who's expecting her third child, attends Hillsong Church in New York with her family. Something she says equips her for those long, tough news days.
We try to be involved. It's hard with such a frenetic and spontaneous schedule. But, we're there every week. Faithful members, our kids are involved in the kids ministry there. We're at church every Sunday and keeping in contact with, fellow believers throughout the week, just encouraging each other throughout the week.
She says she doesn't push her beliefs on others, preferring instead to let her light shine for all to see in her work and example.
People know that there's something different about me, whether or not, I think most people know that I'm a Christian. I've had just some great opportunities to share, the love of Christ with people. But I think if I'm not doing, if first and foremost, I'm not showing people Christ's love, it doesn't matter if I wear a bracelet or wear a t-shirt.
And that is so true. You worked in secular news as well before.
Indeed, indeed. And I didn't, just like her, people know there's something different about you. And some even try and figure out what that is. And that's the time to witness, and I'm sure she's doing the same.
That's great.
Indeed.
That's great.
And coming up next, we have a look at the high cost of divorce, a look at the campaign to save families and society from the devastation caused by splitting up.
A high divorce rate hurts not only individuals, but also society as a whole. Families splitting up can put more people on welfare and even drive up the crime rate.
But as Paul Strand reports, some people are trying to stop all this damage, and they're attacking divorce head on.
Surviving one divorce drove Brooke Wilson to ensure it would never happen to her or her daughters again.
You think, oh, I love him so much, and then after the first 6 months, everybody gets comfortable and everybody becomes themselves.
She got help from her pastor and a program called Marriage Savers that he felt could guarantee Brooke and her new man, James, would never divorce.
The people who've gone through this program, 97, 98% of those who got married were still married after a number of years, and that caught my attention.
We definitely need some training before we get married, I think. It's just like a job.
There's a lot of things there that we probably wouldn't really talked about or thought about unless we'd gotten that training.
This fall, Mike McManus, the man behind Marriage Savers, came to Kentucky with an unprecedented plan, blitz the entire state, and enlist its pastors to battle divorce like never before. It certainly needs the help.
Kentucky has the third highest divorce rate in the United States.
About 65 out of 100 marriages go belly up here.
We have just let marriage slide as an American culture.
Kent Ostrander, a pro-family leader, pushed McManus to do the Kentucky Blitz.
We believe that the church can turn it around if the pastors, in fact, will roll up their sleeves and make marriage a priority within each congregation.
McManus brought proof that if Kentucky's churches pledge to only marry couples who get premarital counseling and offer mentors to young, struggling couples, they could significantly cut the divorce rate.
Divorce has become so commonplace that most people accept it as just a fact of life. But the research shows, with just a few practical steps, almost any marriage can be made into a permanent one.
McManus's own church proved by training and mentoring its own people the method works.
Of the 230 couples who did marry, we only know of 16 divorces. So that's better than a 90% success rate. That's marriage insurance.
David and Penny Hudson have helped marriages for decades.
And we've done together about 140 couples, and so we have some experience at this, and we have seen nothing but good, positive things come from it.
Penny Hudson says older folks in the pews need to step up and guide the younger ones.
Those who have been married a while, who have gone through some experiences and can help these couples, walk beside them, pray with them, support them.
You're investing in their life for eternity because you will have the opportunity to help them with struggles and lead them back to Christ. You're not always going to be there. You know, after a while, they're going to stop coming to us, but Christ is always going to be there for them.
As mentors, you will be so blessed by this, and it's an outreach opportunity. It's a different way to disciple couples. It's a different way to even evangelize.
McManus trained Pastor Gutenson several years ago on intense premarital counseling and mentoring. It virtually divorce-proofed the 24 engaged couples in Gutenson's care after.
Best of my knowledge, none of those that we've married since we've been doing this program have gotten a divorce. And every couple that comes, I say the best gift that you're going to give each other is to come through this counseling.
And Brooke and James know the mentors are a great resource.
They've been there, done that. And so they can kind of help push you along into the right path.
McManus says the successful, stable marriages that result don't just benefit the couples, but their whole community and state. Workers in the middle of divorce tend to be less productive, so a community with a high divorce rate is less attractive to businesses. But one that can drive down divorce?
It becomes a more attractive place for companies to invest because they're going to have less problems with their employees than they would in some other city.
McManus points out children of divorce commit more crimes. So if a community's divorce rate goes down, its crime rate can drop as well. Finally, divorce often drives the ex-wives and kids into poverty, and they end up on welfare. In Kentucky alone, 24,000 new divorces a year cost state taxpayers a fortune.
Each year, it adds $600 million of cost to the taxpayer.
So fewer divorces mean huge savings for taxpayers.
Churches need to realize that divorce hurts their entire state. So maybe it's time for them to all get together and fight statewide for lasting marriages. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Lexington, Kentucky.
Beautiful. Well, finally this hour, a military dad wanted to surprise his children after 7 months of training.
That's right. So he got into the Christmas spirit and devised a plan with Santa. Airman Jim Lostraco's family went to a nearby country store to meet Santa and tell them their Christmas wishes. Lostraco's daughter wished for her dad.
I gave you the magic. Let's see if you can do it. Well, come on out. I surprised you.
How excited were you to see Dad?
I was amazed almost. And when I get home, I just want to just jump on him and do everything with him.
Super excited. I cannot wait to go through the holidays and hold them and just never let them go.
Awesome. Lostraco says he can't wait to spend Christmas with his family. The first thing the family did was go pick out a Christmas tree. Just the joy, just to see the children's faces light up and see the dad just so happy.
Christmas come early.
Definitely. Well, that's going to do it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
Make it a great day, everybody.